This is the new Leopard 43PC built by Robertson & Kane in South Africa. Now, as you can see, this is the moorings charter version. It's off to its new home in Croatia next week. It looks very similar to the 39 that it replaces. However, there are a whole host of changes, brand new hull, really interesting new deck layout and a far more modern interior. The 39 was a boat that I knew very well personally from doing charters in the States and in Europe, so very keen to see how these changes work in effect. Let's have a closer look. So as already mentioned, this is a charter spec boat, hence why it's all very wipe clean, easy to look after. If you buy a private boat, yes, you're probably going to want a bit of teak splashed around, so upholstery, that can all be done, but this is a boat that's going to have a pretty hard life, so it all needs to be very easy. Hence why you have a plastic table, but it's all very comfortable, very spacious, very practical to get to, the likes of the batteries, which are under this hatch here. Life raft is kept under there. You have lots of storage back here as well, so it's all very easy to use, very inoffensive, but pretty simple as well. However, some serious changes over the 39. For example, this window now opens up so that you can easily communicate between the saloon and the cockpit. There's also a totally different change in layout. So you used to have the galley here in an L shape. Now the galley is split round forward, and this is your seating area. This also drops down to make an extra double berth if you need it to. And the other thing you notice is that cherry wood is completely gone. Now you have this light ash. It's all a bit more contemporary. It looks a little bit plain. It probably needs the help of some scatter cushions, a bit of colour, but at least it's far more contemporary than the boats it replaces. And the big thing for me that they've managed to get onto this boat is this door. This changes everything about the way the boat works. You now have a really easy flow, not only for you and guests to get through the boat, but also for breeze. When you're anchored, having the breeze coming in through this door and the small window there, out to the back, it just makes life a lot more comfortable. You may not even need to use the air conditioning. And of course it means that you can come out of here and very easily make your way out onto this fabulous foredeck. It's very bright out here today. But it is such a great party platform. You could easily put a freestanding table up here, have really good fun out in the sun. A couple of significant changes up in this area. One being that the generator, which used to live in this void here, is now in a machinery space aft, which is much better for these two cabins, much quieter. The other thing is that this area here, which is a great place to sit when you're going along, on the old boat this was just plastic. Robertson & Kane have clearly realised that this is a good place to sit, and they've put some sun pads on there, so it's a really nice place to spend time if the boat's stationary or if it's going along. There are now two ways to access the Flybridge as well. You have the proper staircase aft and then this mini gateway here, so you can very quickly nip forward to the bow to do lines or whatever you need to. And then what you realise over the old boat is a much more formulaic layout of the Flybridge. Previously it was slightly odd where you had the helm all the way back here, all the seating was in front of you. Now you have a proper double helm to starboard. You have a dining area next to it, obviously, though everything's a little bit low, especially for dining. It's all a bit sort of coffee table-esque, could do with being raised up a bit. But what you do have is a proper wet bar, grill, fridge, ice maker, so you can serve the top deck purely from this unit, which is really useful. And then you have open space back here, which you can do with what you want. Hardtop, that's a standard fit. There isn't a sunroof option though, but you can have covers all the way around here, so you completely enclose it if you need to. So this being a catamaran, of course, accommodation is in the hulls. So if we go down here, this is the starboard hull. On this, which is the charter layout, you have four cabins. Double cabin forward, double cabin aft on both sides, heads in between with a separate shower cubicle. It's obviously a layout, this boat, to sleep a lot of people. It's not particularly flash, the cabins aren't particularly luxurious, but they do the job. There's enough storage in there for people to have a week's worth of clothes. Nothing particularly special. However, what you can have is the option of a big master cabin down the starboard hull, which is a really nice cabin where you have double bed aft. This middle area is a big changing area, dressing room, and then forward you have a really nice big bathroom with space for a washing machine in the very forward part of the bow. Robertson & Kane and the moorings have made a big deal about the fact that this boat was designed to be a power cat, and that really shows out here at sea, mainly through the performance. I mean, when I've used 39s before, they've been 10 knot boats max. This one though, with the pair of Yanmar 260s, will do 20 knots, and this one is governed because it's a charter boat. The private boat will do more like 23 knots, so that gives you really flexible cruising performance. You can do 8 to 10 knots, 15 is probably the real sweet spot, good balance of making progress, but also fuel consumption is pretty good as well, and then you can really charge along if you need to. Of course, when it comes to ride, very smooth, no slamming whatsoever, particularly comfortable downwind like we are now. But on the beam and going into the sea, you do get that sort of characteristic jerky catamaran movement. It's just something to get used to. It's not particularly uncomfortable, it's just different from a monohull. But it is very comfortable in a big sea, and it really parts the waves cleanly, as you would imagine. The steering, well, pretty lifeless, but then this isn't a sports boat. This boat is going to live on autopilot most of the time, let's be honest. You just sit back and let the hulls do the work, and you will have to sit back. There isn't much adjustment on this helm at all, really. It's all fixed, but to be honest, you're not engaging with the helm all that often. You're setting the throttles, you're setting the wheel, and you sit back and let the boat get on with it. But it is nice that you can have two of you here sitting forward. The helm itself, pretty plain, but it all works. Everything's nice and clear, nothing too complicated. But it's a very relaxing boat to drive, it has to be said. No matter what you might think about the way this boat looks, or the fact that it hasn't got a huge amount of flourish in its finish, it certainly delivers on improving on the model before it, and in many different ways. Not only dynamically, providing genuinely useful performance all the way up to 23 knots and pretty much any speed in between, but it has a much better deck layout, a far improved interior which feels much more modern, and then you have a really improved Flybridge as well. So as long as you're on board with the way this boat looks and the way this boat works, there's a hell of a lot to like about it.